to live is to suffer. And I'm not saying that entire life is just suffering, because there's good days, there's bad days, there's highs, there's lows in life, but most of life is indeed suffering, and the end goal is nothing but death. And beyond that, probably nothingness, probably afterlife. I don't know for sure. I don't think anyone does for sure. And most of the suffering is inevitable, like losing people that you love, heartbreaks, failures, and lots of it. And I'm not even a cynic or a pessimist. I'm just not shying away from the basic truth of life, that life has suffering, and that constitutes like most of it. So what do you do in the middle of all this suffering? If you look deep enough, you'll see that most of religious beliefs are based on reducing this suffering and justifying it at its best. If you look into Western religions like Christianity, you'll see that suffering on this life is justified by believing that God gives you all this suffering to test if you're ready for his next blessing. But in Eastern religion and philosophies, suffering of now is justified by your karma or your deeds you did in the past. A bad karma means something bad is happening with you. And if you did all good, you attain moksha and nirvana, but that's a completely different topic. Even the entire self-help industry is based on reducing this suffering. Just think about a book. I'm gonna go with the one that I read first, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read it first in like, 8th grade. And it tells you how to reduce the financial sufferings in your life, the sufferings you face due to lack of money. And the recent one that I read last month was 12 Rules for Life. Amazing book. And it's entirely made on how to reduce the sufferings in your life. There are 12 rules that you need to follow, or you should follow. Even the most famous philosophies these days, like Stoicism, it tells you how to be strong and indifferent in the face of suffering of this life. Absurdism, nihilism, existentialism, all are coming together to answer the big questions, that is, why are we here? What's our purpose? And I think the biggest one, in my opinion, is why us human beings with a capital H and a capital P, the entire mass of people, except for some anomalies, let's just leave them there, strive to be better every single day. Why do we wake up every day and fight through these hurdles of life? Why do we think it's necessary to fight for the nobler cause, to help people that you love, to do something for other people, or just for ourselves? It is even harder for us because we're gifted with this curse of consciousness. We think too hard, we love too hard, we get anxious about things of life, we magnify small little things, we stress too much, we overthink a lot. We do not spend too much time with people that we love because we're running out of things that we think will give us peace and freedom. We pray for instant gratification, but we magnify things that stresses us out. We are pretty messed up, but we're still here. We're still striving. And that is something that amazes me, because we're still making miracles that would have been considered witchcraft 100 years ago. And the best I can do in the middle of this suffering is help you reduce maybe 1 to 10% of that suffering, of that hardship, and help you be a better person, or make it easier for you to strive to be a better person for the coming tomorrow. But before that, let's look into something that you shouldn't do, in my opinion. Nietzsche said, if you stare long enough into the abyss will stare back. Joe Peterson put a little spin into it and said, if you stare long enough into the abyss, you do not see the darkness at the end of it, but the light at the end of the abyss. The abyss here is the suffering of human existence, the complexities, the hard questions that a normal person doesn't ask himself, because they are indeed hard. They're very hard to answer, they're very hard to grasp, and it might shake someone's entire belief to think that the end goal of your life is indeed dead, and all the things that you're doing would not matter in the coming 2-3 generations after you've died. You are basically nothing. You're tinier than a speck of dust in this entire vast timeline of universe. These are things that makes me scared about all this existence I have, but this is what I want you to follow. This is what I want you to do. I do not want you to give up yourself in the endless abyss of life. I do not want you to build a shelter into the abyss of nothingness, because it may seem easy. It may seem easy and peaceful to let go of responsibilities, but a life without responsibility is a life of total freedom. And absolute total freedom is nothing but chaos. A life without responsibility is a life without love, because to love someone is to be responsible still. It's a life without passion, without will to be better, without doing something good for someone. And that's simply not a way to live. If you do not want to love someone, at least love yourself. Do something good for yourself, be better for yourself. Don't just give away this gift of life. I understand there are lows, but there are also highs. There are times that are worth going through all this suffering today. There are people that are worth going through all this suffering today. And do not confuse nihilism with detachment, because they're different. Nihilism is believing that life is meaningless, or whatever you do is indeed meaningless. But detachment is letting go of expectations. It is loving someone without expecting them to love you back. It is doing something good for someone without expecting them to do it back to you. Follow detachment. Achieve detachment if you can. It is very hard. It is indeed very hard. It's not just yoga and meditation. It is a completely different set of mindsets. But yeah, detachment is good. It is letting go of expectation, but still enjoying the simple pleasures of life. It is taking that walk into nature. It is embracing goodness among people. It is loving people. It is doing something good for someone else and for yourself. Do not confuse nihilism and detachment. And if you find yourself sitting in this void of nothingness, let's just look in the next part where I tell you the steps on how to get out of this abyss. So far we've established that life is indeed hard, and nihilism is not the best approach to fight head-on with the problems in life, because it is not a fight at all. It's just giving up in the middle of all this suffering. So the big question now is, how do we channel all this burden into something more bearable so that it gets easier to fight through the void of nothingness till we see that light at the end of the abyss. My first suggestion to you is to not overcomplicate things. Our brain loves complexity. There's this thing called complexity bias. Our brain literally craves complexity. We're the kind of creatures that would go to an ice cream store that has 70 different flavors compared to the one that offers 7, because we love having more options. We love that complex situation, even though it would be much more simpler to choose from 7 compared to 70. If you're a content creator, you probably went through this thing where if a picture or video is picture perfect, like it's already perfect, you have this little hammer going in your head saying, edit just a little, just add something to it, maybe it's not that good yet. We are that kind of thing. We love complexity. If there's something in your life that is stressing you out, or you're going through a hard time in your life, you just find yourself in that abyss of nothingness, and you want to reduce that burden, ask yourself this question. Sit down in a quiet room and ask yourself this: is there something I can do to lower the burden in my life right now and make it more bearable, make it more smoother and easier? If the answer is yes, then please go do it. I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not be lazy when it comes to a situation where things are still in your control to reduce this burden and suffering, because things are not going to be in your control always. Time is always flying by. Let's say you do not like the way you look, go take that gym membership. Go to the gym the first day, just see everyone working out. You don't have to work out the first day. Take that small little step to break out of that anxiety, of that shyness, make some friends. I'm telling you this from personal experience. I used to be very anxious about going to gym. Like, I didn't join gym for 2 years because I was thinking I can just work out at home. I don't need to interact with anyone, because I used to be very shy. But everyone at gym is legit wholesome. I have not met any assholes at gym yet, thankfully. Everyone is just focused on themselves. No one's gonna even look at you and be like, oh, I don't like your physique. It doesn't work like that. Everyone knows people are going there to be a better person, a better version of themselves. So drop your fears and trust me on this. Just go to the gym, make some friends maybe, or just start working on your own. Maybe ask the bigger guy how to do some workouts. The bigger the guy is, the more helpful they always are. So do that. Let's say the relationship between you and your family is failing. It's not that good yet. Make them sit down, have an open discussion with them, ask them the things that you can do to help make the situation better. Tell them things they can do to make the situation better. And if you're not blessed with a family like that, I'm sorry, but it's time to put down boundaries. You deserve peace. Life is hard as it is. You don't have to make it harder with family that doesn't understand you, or in a toxic environment. Put down boundaries, work on yourself, do things that feel productive, be a better version of yourself all the time. Just remember that just because life is hard doesn't mean you need to give up. Fight through it. Go fight through it till we see that light at the end of the darkness. Trust me, it'll be worth it. You can look back and be like, holy shit, I really went through that. I really went through that. I'm standing here today. It's a humbling and proud feeling. Really it is. I'll give an example. I had this crazy big test back in November and only had 2 months to prepare. And this is like one of the biggest tests in the country. I gave it my all. I gave the preparation my all. I'd stay up nights and miss my sleep just to prepare for that exam because I wanted to get good marks. But just minutes before the exam, I get this panic attack, and I was panicking because if you have followed my videos, you know that I'm a very anxious person. I've been trying to control it. I've got much better at it, but it still comes and goes. I was anxious, so I sat myself down in my room and kept talking to myself. I asked myself all this anxiety, all this thinking, is it going to help me do better in my test? You know, the answer is always no. This stress, this anxiety is not going to help me do better in the test. So what I did, I meditated a little, and back in the exam hall, in the exam room, I told myself, this thing is in my control. I'll do whatever I can, and I'll give the best that I can right now. But whatever happens after this, after I've submitted the paper, I've clicked on that submit button, things are out of my control. I'm not going to worry about that. But this right here, this moment, this is mine. I'm going to make it mine. I'm going to give it my all. So go through that part. Do not just shy away from hardship, from suffering, because sometimes it is really worth it. Unnecessary suffering, not worth it. That's why I said the first step, do not overcomplicate things. And the second step is, if things are complicated already and it's still under your control, try and control it. I mean, you're just human. You're just human. You're not God. You're only human, and you're pretty good at being a human. So just do the things that you can to make the things in your life better, to make this suffering much more bearable. Because again, life is hard as it is. There's suffering that's inevitable, so just control the ones that you still can. This just leaves us now with a kind of suffering that is inevitable, like losing a loved one, heartbreaks, failures. I'm not enlightened enough to tell you how to get rid of that suffering, because I don't know it myself. How do you get rid of suffering that comes from losing someone you love? That's something you still gotta figure out. Till then, see ya.